Commander Rex Vance stood before the Galactic Empire Council, his cybernetic eye glowing red in the dim chamber light. The prosthetic arm that replaced his left limb whirred softly as he adjusted his uniform. 20 years of service, 15 battle scars, and 3 near-death experiences had taught him one thing: when humans got serious, everyone else should start running. Honored Council, Rex began, his voice carrying the weight of someone who'd seen too much. I stand before you not as a human, but as someone who's witnessed what my species can do when properly motivated. You're making a mistake. Chancellor Blobbington, a gelatinous mass of purple goo wearing what passed for formal robes, quivered with amusement. Commander Vance, surely you don't expect us to take seriously the combat capabilities of a species that still uses projectile weapons? General Clawface, an insectoid creature with mandibles that clicked when he spoke, leaned forward. The humans couldn't even conquer their own planet without dividing it into arbitrary territories. How exactly are they supposed to threaten an empire spanning 3 galaxies? Ambassador Tentacles McGillicuddy, whose real name was unpronounceable and whose diplomatic smile never wavered, waved a tentacle dismissively. Commander, with all due respect to your service record, the Empire has protocols. Your people are classified as Level 3 pre-industrial. Surely you understand our position. Rex's jaw tightened. You're thinking of the Terran incident as some kind of myth. Let me be clear, it wasn't a myth. It was a warning shot. Humanity has been playing nice for decades because we didn't want galactic attention. But if you force our hand... Oh please, Blobbington interrupted, his entire form jiggling with laughter. The Terran incident was a single rogue ship that got lucky. Your species barely managed to leave their solar system without blowing themselves up. That rogue ship, Rex said quietly, destroyed 3 Imperial dreadnoughts with a cargo freighter and a bad attitude. The pilot's name was Marcus Thompson. He was a retired insurance adjuster. The council chamber erupted in laughter. Even the usually diplomatic McGillicuddy couldn't hide his amusement. An insurance adjuster. Commander, surely you can do better than that. Rex stood perfectly still, watching them laugh. When the noise died down, he spoke again. You want to know what humans are really capable of? Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. When your fleets start disappearing, when your soldiers refuse to fight, when your perfect empire starts crumbling from the inside out. Remember this moment. Remember that a human veteran stood in this chamber and tried to save you from yourselves. 2 guards, tall reptilian beings with ceremonial spears, moved to escort Rex out. He didn't resist, but his parting words echoed through the chamber. Humanity doesn't want to fight you. We've been hoping you'd leave us alone. But if you insist on poking the bear, don't be surprised when it mauls you. As the massive doors sealed behind him, Rex heard one final burst of laughter from the council. He shook his head and muttered, "Idiots. They have no idea what they're about to unleash." 3 days after Rex's warning, the Galactic Empire Council convened an emergency session. The decision was unanimous: humanity needed to be taught a lesson, and the entire galaxy needed to see what happened to species that defied imperial authority. Gentlemen, General Clawface announced, his mandibles clicking with excitement. I present Operation Squish the Bugs. Phase 1 involves a demonstration of overwhelming force to encourage immediate surrender. Phase 2 involves occupation and re-education. Phase 3 involves using Earth as a cautionary tale for other rebellious species. Chancellor Blobbington's gelatinous form rippled with approval. Excellent. How long do you estimate this will take? Conservative estimate? 48 hours. Realistic estimate? 12 hours. The humans have approximately 200 functional spacecraft, most of which appear to be converted civilian vessels. We'll be deploying 3 full battle fleets, each containing 500 of our finest ships. Captain Buzzkill, a young officer with more enthusiasm than sense, practically bounced in his seat. Sir, request permission to lead the first wave. I've been studying human military doctrine, and frankly, It's adorable. They still use formations based on ancient naval combat. Granted, Clawface replied. This will be an excellent training exercise for our newer recruits. Nothing builds confidence like an easy victory. Ambassador McGillicuddy raised a tentacle. Have we considered the diplomatic ramifications? Perhaps a show of force would be sufficient without actual combat. Tentacles, Blobbington said, using the ambassador's nickname with barely concealed disdain. Sometimes diplomacy requires a firm hand. The humans will thank us eventually. We're bringing them civilization. Meanwhile, in his detention cell, Rex watched the news coverage on his wall monitor. Imperial News Network was already calling it the Great Human Pacification. Military analysts explained how quickly the operation would end. Betting pools had opened on whether humanity would surrender before the first shots were fired. Breaking news, the anchor announced, Imperial forces are now en route to the human homeworld. Citizens across the Empire are celebrating what promises to be a swift victory for civilization over barbarism. Rex laughed bitterly. Swift victory. Right. He'd tried to warn them. He'd explained that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers, but their absolute refusal to accept defeat. He'd mentioned that humans had a saying, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you make the other guy lose harder. The news switched to interviews with Imperial citizens. A crystalline being from the mining world said, it's about time someone dealt with those primitive humans. They've been nothing but trouble since first contact. A floating gas creature from the Outer Rim added, I heard they still wage war with chemical explosives. How quaint. Rex turned off the monitor. He'd done his duty. He'd warned them. Now he could only wait for the inevitable news reports. In about 72 hours, he estimated, the Empire would be begging him to negotiate a ceasefire. He settled back on his cot and closed his eyes. 48 hours, he muttered. Clawface, you magnificent idiot, you have no idea what you just started. Outside his cell, Imperial guards discussed their shore leave plans, confident they'd be celebrating victory within the week. None of them noticed Rex's knowing smile or the way his cybernetic eye continued to glow in the darkness. The Imperial fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, 3 massive armadas arranged in a display designed to inspire immediate surrender. Captain Buzzkill stood on the bridge of his flagship, the inevitable victory, practically vibrating with excitement. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the human homeworld. Excellent. Put it through. Time to accept their surrender. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a middle-aged human woman in a crisp military uniform. Her nameplate read Admiral Murphy, and her expression suggested she'd rather be anywhere else. This is Admiral Betty Murphy, commander of Sol Defense Fleet. You've entered restricted space without permission. Turn around and leave, or we'll make you leave. Buzzkill blinked. I'm sorry, did you just threaten us? We have 1,500 ships. Our scouts report you have maybe 200 functional vessels, most of which appear to be garbage haulers with weapons strapped to them. That's Admiral Bulldozer Murphy to you, bug boy. And yeah, we've got 200 ships. 200 angry, stubborn, magnificently stupid ships crewed by the most ornery species in the galaxy. Still want to dance? This is your final warning, Buzzkill said, his mandibles clicking with annoyance. Surrender now, and we'll be merciful. Resist, and we'll demonstrate why the Empire has never lost a war. Murphy's laugh was genuinely amused. Never lost a war. That's cute. Tell you what, insect breath, how about we start with a little demonstration? Something to show you what you're dealing with. Before Buzzkill could respond, proximity alarms began screaming. His tactical officer looked up in confusion. Sir, we're detecting multiple small craft approaching at high speed. They're not using any propulsion system we recognize. What do you mean? They appear to be surfing the gravitational waves from our own ship, sir. They're using our engine wash to accelerate. On the view screen, Murphy grinned. Meet the Terran irregulars. They're what we call our Hold My Beer squadron. Watch and learn. The small human craft, cobbled together from spare parts and sheer determination, slammed into the Imperial formation like wolves attacking a flock of sheep. They ignored every rule of space combat, using ramming attacks, improvised weapons, and tactics that made no sense according to any military doctrine. They're firing projectiles at our shields, the weapons officer reported. Primitive chemical explosives. They're completely ineffective. Then why are they doing it? Buzzkill demanded. Unknown, sir. Wait, the projectiles aren't aimed at our shields. They're targeting our sensor arrays. And they're spelling out words. What words? The communications officer turned pale. They're writing profanity, sir. Specifically, they're telling us where we can stick our surrender demand. One of the human fighters, a craft that looked like someone had welded guns to a pizza delivery truck, swooped past the bridge windows. The pilot waved cheerfully before dropping what appeared to be a garbage container into the inevitable Victory's engine intake. Sir, the engineering officer called out, we're detecting massive system failures. Whatever they dropped in our engines is causing cascade failures throughout the ship. Impossible. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Sir, I believe they've introduced a highly corrosive substance into our plasma conduits. The entire propulsion system is, sir, they've sabotaged us with what appears to be industrial-strength toilet bowl cleaner. Buzzkill stared at the tactical display as more Imperial ships reported similar attacks. The humans weren't fighting like soldiers. They were fighting like extremely creative vandals with a grudge. All units implement standard battle protocol, he ordered. Surely their luck can't hold out against proper tactics. Murphy's voice crackled over the comm. Protocol. Oh honey, you really don't understand humans at all. We don't do protocol. We do whatever works, and right now, what works is making you look like the galaxy's biggest idiots. As if to prove her point, another wave of human fighters approached, this time towing what appeared to be asteroids with crude engines attached. The rocks slammed into Imperial shields with devastating effect, not because they were advanced weapons, but because they were really heavy and the humans had figured out how to make them go really fast. This is impossible, Buzzkill muttered. They're using Stone Age tactics. Stone Age tactics, Murphy corrected, guided by Space Age spite. Big difference. By hour 6 of what was supposed to be a 12-hour operation, Captain Buzzkill's confidence had completely evaporated. His fleet had lost 37 ships to what could only be described as weaponized creativity. But the real nightmare began when the humans stopped playing around. Sir, his tactical officer reported, voice shaking, we're detecting new contacts. Large formations approaching from multiple vectors. Reinforcements? Buzzkill asked hopefully. No, sir. These are human ships. A lot of human ships. The view screen displayed what appeared to be several hundred vessels emerging from behind the moon. Unlike the ramshackle fighters from the first wave, these ships moved with deadly precision. At their head flew a sleek black vessel that seemed to absorb light itself. This is Colonel Jack Harrison, commanding Ghost Squadron, came a voice that sounded like it had been aged in whiskey and sharpened on a grindstone. You boys picked the wrong day to mess with Earth. Admiral Murphy's voice cut through the calm chatter. Jackrabbit, about time you showed up. These bugs have been cluttering up my space for hours. Sorry, Betty. Had to wait for the all clear from upstairs. Command finally decided to take the gloves off. Buzzkill felt his exoskeleton go cold. What does he mean, take the gloves off? His answer came in the form of Ghost Squadron's opening salvo. The human ships didn't fire energy weapons or missiles. Instead, they deployed what appeared to be clouds of metallic dust that enveloped Imperial vessels like hungry fog. Sir, The dust is interfacing with our computer systems. It's learning our tactical programs and feeding the information to the human ships. Impossible. No one has technology that advanced. Sir, the humans aren't using advanced technology. They're using our own systems against us. The dust appears to be some kind of adaptive nanomachine that hijacks enemy electronics. On the main screen, Colonel Harrison's scarred face appeared. See, Bug Boy, while you've been building bigger and better weapons, we've been figuring out how to make your weapons work for us. Turns out, the more advanced your tech, the easier it is to hack. Imperial ships began firing on each other as their systems were compromised. Buzzkill watched in horror as his own fleet tore itself apart while the humans sat back and provided helpful commentary. "That's your flagship shooting your supply ships," Harrison noted cheerfully. "Might want to fix that." "Oh wait, you can't, because we've locked you out of your own computers." Meanwhile, reports flooded in from across the Empire. Human ships were appearing everywhere, emerging from hiding spots that should have been impossible to conceal. They'd been watching, waiting, and preparing while the Empire laughed at their primitive technology. This, as General Clawface, came a panicked transmission. "All Imperial forces fall back to defensive positions. The humans have somehow infiltrated our communication networks." Actually, came a new voice, distinctly human and thoroughly amused. "We've been listening to your communications for about 15 years. Did you know your encryption is based on mathematical principles we figured out in the 20th century? Also, General, your wife thinks you're an idiot." The psychological warfare was almost worse than the physical attacks. Humans had somehow accessed personal files, military records, and private communications. They broadcast embarrassing secrets, personal failings, and compromising information about Imperial officers across public channels. Commander Slithers announced a cheerful human voice, "Remember when you told your troops that humans were cowards? Your own service record shows you've requested transfer away from every combat zone you've ever been assigned to." Back in his detention cell, Rex watched the news coverage with grim satisfaction. The reports were chaotic, contradictory, and increasingly desperate. Imperial News Network had stopped calling it a pacification operation and started referring to it as the human crisis. In a stunning development, the anchor reported, human forces have somehow gained access to the Empire's central communication hub. Citizens are advised to ignore any messages claiming to be from Imperial Command, as humans have been using our own networks to spread disinformation. Rex chuckled. Disinformation. Right. They're just telling everyone the truth about how incompetent you are. The truth was becoming increasingly clear. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. They'd allowed themselves to be underestimated while secretly developing weapons, tactics, and intelligence networks that made the Empire's vaunted military look like amateur hour. "Colonel Harrison," Admiral Murphy's voice crackled over the comm. "How many more surprises do we have in store for our guests?" "Oh, Betty," Harrison replied, "we're just getting started. Wait until they see what we've got planned for their home planets." Within 72 hours, the great human pacification had become the great Imperial catastrophe. Human forces had systematically dismantled 3 centuries of Imperial expansion with the efficiency of a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare. Chancellor Blobbington's gelatinous form had lost its purple hue and now appeared a sickly green as reports flooded in from across the Empire. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "They're primitives. They use gunpowder and combustion engines." "Sir," his aide reported, "human forces have captured the Altair system. They're using our own defense platforms against us. Somehow, they've convinced the automated systems that Imperial ships are the enemy." "And the vegan colonies?" "Evacuated. The humans sent a single message, 'We're coming, and we're bringing lawyers.' The entire system surrendered without a fight." General Clawface, his mandibles clicking frantically, paced the command center. "They can't be everywhere at once. It's impossible." "Sir, intelligence reports suggest they're not everywhere." They're just making us think they are. They've been broadcasting false fleet movements, deploying decoy signals, and somehow convinced half our forces that they're surrounded by massive human armies. How many humans are actually fighting? Best estimate? Maybe 50,000 active combat personnel. The rest appears to be psychological operations, electronic warfare, and really good propaganda. On the main screen, a human face appeared. It was Colonel Harrison broadcasting from what appeared to be the bridge of a captured Imperial dreadnought. Attention, Imperial forces. This is your daily reminder that you're fighting the descendants of a species that once fought a war so devastating they split the atom just to end it faster. We're not angry. We're not cruel. We're just very good at breaking things. The transmission cut to footage of human engineers systematically dismantling Imperial weapons factories. They weren't destroying them. They were taking them apart with the methodical precision of mechanics working on a particularly complicated engine. As you can see, Harrison continued, we're not interested in conquest. We're interested in making sure you never threaten anyone again. Every weapon you've built, every ship you've launched, every plan you've made for galactic domination, we've figured out how to undo it. Ambassador McGillicuddy, his tentacles writhing with anxiety, received a priority transmission. Chancellor, we're receiving surrender offers from 17 Imperial member species. They're requesting immediate transfer to human protection. Denied. We don't negotiate with terrorists. Sir, they're not asking us. They're asking the humans, and the humans are accepting. Across the galaxy, species that had lived under Imperial rule for centuries were discovering that humans offered a different kind of protection. Instead of demanding tribute and blind obedience, humans provided something the Empire never had: competent defense and reasonable terms. This is Captain Sarah Williams of the Terran Diplomatic Corps. Came a broadcast from the human fleet. To any species currently under Imperial control, we offer the following: immediate protection from Imperial retaliation, assistance in establishing independent governments, and a mutual defense pact that doesn't require you to worship our leaders or surrender your children to our military. The message was broadcast in 400 languages, including several that the Empire had tried to eradicate. Within hours, entire star systems were declaring independence and requesting human assistance. Rex, finally released from his detention cell, found himself escorted to the council chamber, where the same beings who had laughed at his warnings now sat in stunned silence. Commander Vance, Blobbington said, his voice barely above a whisper, we need to discuss terms. Terms? Rex replied, settling into his chair. I'm sorry, I don't understand. 3 days ago, you were planning to make an example of my species. Now you want to negotiate? The humans have dismantled our entire military infrastructure in less than 72 hours, General Clawface said, his mandibles clicking with defeat. Our fleets are scattered, our weapons are useless, and half our territory has declared independence. We need this to stop. Rex leaned back and smiled. Well, that's unfortunate. But I'm sure the humans will be reasonable. They're not the type to hold grudges. Much. Can you contact them? Oh, I don't need to contact them. They're already here. The chamber doors opened to reveal Admiral Murphy, Colonel Harrison, and a small team of human officers. Murphy looked around the room and shook her head. This is what passed for galactic leadership. No wonder the place was such a mess. Admiral, Rex said, rising to his feet, may I present the Galactic Empire Council? Council, meet the people who just ended your empire. 6 months later, Rex sat in his new office aboard the diplomatic station orbiting the former imperial capital. The irony wasn't lost on him. The same beings who had laughed at his warnings now hung on his every word as the galaxy's chief mediator. Commander, his aide announced, the Zephyrian delegation is here for their appointment. Rex looked up from his reports. The Zephyrians had been one of the Empire's most loyal member species, right up until they discovered that humans were offering actual protection instead of elaborate protection rackets. Send them in. The Zephyrian ambassador, a tall, crystalline being named Resonance, entered with the careful respect of someone who had learned not to underestimate humans. Commander Vance, our people wish to formally thank humanity for their intervention in the Centauri sector. Thank Admiral Murphy, not me. I just handled the paperwork. The pirates who had been terrorizing our shipping lanes for decades were eliminated in a single engagement. How did the humans accomplish what the Empire could not? Rex smiled. The Empire wanted to manage the pirate problem, made it easier to justify their protection fees. Humans wanted to solve the pirate problem. Turns out, when you actually try to fix something instead of just profiting from it, results improve dramatically. Through his office window, Rex could see the construction of the new Galactic Council building. Unlike the Empire's imposing fortress of black stone, the new structure was built from materials contributed by dozens of species, designed to be welcoming rather than intimidating. Sir, his aide interrupted. You have a call from Colonel Harrison. Rex activated the communication system. Harrison's scarred face appeared on the screen, grinning from the bridge of his ship. Rex, thought you'd want to know. We just finished the last Imperial holdout in the Outer Rim. The magnificent Emperor Blobface III has officially surrendered. Blobface III? Long story. Anyway, the galaxy is officially free of Imperial control. What's the plan now? Now we try to convince several hundred species to play nice with each other without pointing guns at their heads. Should be interesting. Me. Better you than me, Rex. I'll stick to the simple job of keeping pirates and warlords from starting trouble. Rex ended the call and turned back to his reports. Applications for membership in the new Galactic Federation were pouring in from species that had never dared to oppose the Empire. The humans had made it clear they weren't interested in ruling the galaxy, just in making sure no one else ruled it through fear and oppression. Commander, Resonance said, if I may ask, how did your species develop such effective military capabilities while maintaining such reasonable diplomatic positions? Rex considered the question. We learned a long time ago that the strongest military is one that rarely has to fight. When everyone knows you can win, most conflicts never start. When everyone knows you'll be fair afterward, most surrenders come quickly. And if someone still chooses to fight, then we remind them why picking a fight with humanity is a bad idea. We're not cruel, Resonance. We're just very, very good at our job. As the Zephyrian delegation left, Rex turned to his aide. Any word from the outer systems? All quiet, sir. The new defense packs are working. Pirates are avoiding human-protected space, and the few who've tested our resolve have been discouraged. Rex nodded and returned to his reports. The galaxy was finally at peace, not because of overwhelming force or crushing oppression, but because someone had finally bothered to build a system that worked for everyone instead of just the people in charge. His communication system chimed with an incoming message from Earth. Rex, this is Admiral Murphy. Just wanted to let you know the betting pools back home had you negotiating galactic peace within a year of the Empire's collapse. Looks like you're ahead of schedule. Rex laughed. Tell them I'm just getting started. This galaxy has been a mess for centuries. It's going to take a while to clean up. Roger that. Oh, and Rex, next time a bunch of aliens threaten to invade Earth, maybe give them a stronger warning. Some of us were hoping for a longer fight. As the transmission ended, Rex smiled and looked out at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and dangers and species still learning to work together. But for the first time in centuries, it was also full of hope. After all, humanity had finally taught the universe an important lesson, and sometimes the best way to win a war is to make sure everyone knows you don't want to fight it in the first place. But if you insist on fighting anyway, well, humans are very good at that too.